Hello, everybody. My name is Ted Stewart. Hey, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today on this webinar here. Today, we're going to be talking about the rise of personnel competency. Oh, it's always such a fun topic. If you don't mind, go ahead, mute your microphone, turn up that volume if I'm speaking too softly. And what I'd like to do is I'll go through a brief background about myself, a couple slides on the company, exida itself, and then we'll dive right into today's presentation. So if you do have questions, I'll monitor the questions as I go through the webinar. However, more than likely, I'll probably answer all of them at the end. So bear with me and I will get to all of your answers, or your questions, I should say. Hi, if you don't know me, I am Ted Stewart. I am the Program Development and Compliance Manager for exida. I love to wear different hats. You'll see that I get to be involved with a lot of different things of exida. My background is that I used to work with different large organizations. My first company I worked for was Lockheed Martin in missiles and fire control. I then shifted over to a sister company called Harris Corporation. That's where I worked with a group called WPG, Wireless Product Groups. It was a lot of fun. I was the manufacturing engineer for 14 different classified products that could essentially locate and track people. So that was interesting. That's where I actually learned about the whole life cycle of products. Our products literally had a lifespan of 1 or 2 years because of the technology constantly changing. So we quickly got through development to production to end of life, literally within like a 2-year span, and it was rather crazy how fast it went. So then about 8 years ago, I shifted over to exida. I found my home. It's been phenomenal ever since. I get to be responsible for a lot of the new programs, whether it's within OEM or within users and functional safety, cybersecurity, automotive, machinery, robotics, railway, you name it. We're really starting to work and get ourselves into those things. And so I get to help with the various standards and figuring out how we can assist people in these various standards, because functional safety and cybersecurity is growing at such a rapid pace, and of course alarm management as well. We are a global company. As many as you know, I do see a lot of new faces here, so I figure I should always just go through some of these slides. We're a global company. We got offices around the world. It's kind of interesting in the sense that every year I feel like we get a little tiny triangle, a little box that pops up every year. Our latest location, it's not on this map yet, but that will be announced hopefully soon, because we just started hiring people within that location. We are a customer-focused company. We're the only company that encompasses really that complete life cycle, and that's for functional safety. It's also for cybersecurity, for operational technology, OT, right, for ICS, industrial control systems. It's really nice because this allows us to not only talk to the manufacturers, but we also talk to the end users. So we really see that whole vision. So because we get to talk to the people, the professionals that are in the field, we then bring that knowledge back to the manufacturers to help products develop in a way that we know that their customers need them. So it's really cool. Few quick things about us as well. We are an employee-owned company. It's kind of unique in the sense that the harder I work, the better exida does. Actually, the more worth I get as well. So the more I invest into exida, the more we get out of exida. And I believe that's kind of why we've seen such a tremendous growth with our company, and why, someone like myself, I get so passionate about certain topics, because I truly invest my time into making sure it does become the best, or it does meet the needs of what you are looking for. And like today, we're going to be talking about the competency area of personnel, because it's something that's very valuable and it's something that means a lot to me. Yes, we have tools that help you along the way. Really, I like to use this slide as just a big thank you, right? Because the only reason our tools are developing as quickly as they are and as effectively as they are is because we receive comments all the time and improvement ideas from the users, and we get to incorporate those into our tool sets. We obviously do nonstop research. We have webinars every single week. We feel knowledge is power. We like to be that open book. So everything that we can physically write on paper, we do. We publish as much as we do. Like I said, we're that open book. Why? Because we believe that the more we teach you, the more information we can give you, the quicker we can move on to the next topic. There's things called like ERAVA, right, which is this whole new concept with combining products to make them better than what they were before, or at a system level, right? And even in our competency with our programs, with the CFSE program, the cybersecurity CAC program, all of the different competency programs are now improving. Why? Because we're helping you so that we can then move on to the next thing. Yes, we are the global leader in functional safety, cybersecurity. We're doing extremely well, basically because everybody got the same head start there, right? We came in late in functional safety because we originally were just doing consulting work, but then we shifted into certification to help because we saw the benefits there. And that leads us to today. What's the big deal about this personnel competency? Why are we even talking about it today? I'll go into that. I'll talk about understanding the differences between the different personnel certification programs. Now, I won't go into depth on those programs, but what I will do is I will give you the skill set, the tool set, whatever you want to call it, the ability to ask questions, to research those programs in a way that allows you to decipher and allows you to determine what's right for you. Because we all, and I say we, because we have our own personnel competency program, but we all have our own requirements, and we all call things what we want to call them. But in reality is, once you ask a series of questions, you can truly weed out the ones that might be misleading, might be calling someone a professional. In reality, it's not that big of a deal, or vice versa. Or maybe someone's devaluating their program. In reality, they should be doing more and advertising more. So I want to kind of share the knowledge that I've been receiving through my different platforms and through my knowledge set, because I do immerse myself into this category. And if I can help you out any way, shape, or form, that's what I want to do. And so that's our agenda today, is really helping you determine what's the right path for you, why there's such a rise in personnel competency programs, and kind of get into what certain companies are doing to help themselves. I like to throw the abstract on here because I won't always be live. So this will give the people the ability to pause this recording and see what today's topic was all about. But it's all going to be talking how, giving you the ability to determine what personnel competency program is right for you, why there's a rise in personnel competency, and really dig into picking and painting that bigger picture to really help yourself. So the first thing you always want to start with is, there's a rise in personnel competency, and it all kind of, it started back in the 2000s, early 2000s, even maybe in the late teens, right? But really, the latest standards out there for 61508 and 61511, they really beefed up their language to include more requirements around what? Personnel competency. Sure, those standards are all about products. They're all about systems, within the process industry. However, personnel competency is something that was really beefed up, and you can thank the industry standards for, I would say, for a lot of these new programs that are coming to light, right? For me, these programs started in the early 2000s, late teens, and I would say every few years at the beginning, you would see another company kind of getting skin in the game. They would say, hey, we have our own program, and you start learning about new organizations coming up. You fast forward today, I swear, I see a new program, I think monthly. And that kind of hints the reason for this webinar. Just last week, yet again, I was on LinkedIn, and what do you know? Boom, there was another person glorifying another program, saying this is the best program to become a functional safety professional. And they go on to tell you why it's the best. Kudos. I love companies. I love competition. I want more. The more competition you get, guess what? The better quality the programs become, because now they have to compete within them with each other to get better. So why are you choosing this other program? So I love competition, because that's what you need to get to that excellence level. And I always, say, I always tell people, look, to each their own. However, what I worry about is the message when it doesn't line up with that end result. What I mean is when people are calling them a title and they're saying, this is for experts, this is for professionals. In my opinion, this shouldn't be something that everyone of any knowledge level has the ability to get, right? So as you see in front of you, it's a very short list. I kind of just threw some on there. There's numerous programs out there that you get to choose from. Some are great, some are good, some are, well, some are just great at marketing, but they might not be a great program. So here's this thing, even last year, one of the most recognized personnel certification companies out there literally had to completely restructure because they called too many people experts. They were getting a bad rapport and they completely changed it. Not changed the requirements, but kind of hit a reset button. Why? People with this title were starting to cause harm in our industry. They were being placed into positions where companies thought they were an expert. In reality, no, they just took a training course and passed an exam. Interesting, right? And so those are things that we need to address. So many times we've kind of brushed under a rug and just said, hey, look, let's not, okay, yeah, we know that exists, but let's keep moving forward. Things need to start being addressed. And and the other thing that you'll start realizing is we got to look beyond branding. We got to start focusing on what it means to earn that title. And that's kind of what I do is I want to create some questions here to give you so that you can ask anyone, okay, well, what do you do about this? What do you do about this? What do you do about this? And as long as those answers are what you want and what you want to put your name behind for branding purposes for yourself, then you're good to go. I don't care what level of competency you want. It could be entry level. It could be the expert level, the mentorship level. Whatever it is you want, make sure what you put your name against, what you put your name to or put in your signature is exactly what you expect to have, because there's been a lot of confusion. One of the things that's confusing, and this was actually just last week, I was talking to someone on LinkedIn, and they actually brought this to my attention, saying that there's so many different people out there branding and using the same name, but they're different companies, right? And so one of the things is we all know that the word TUV isn't just one company, right? I think that's pretty apparent now. Before it was, just one band, one sound, but in reality, every TUV company has their own structure. They have their own program. They have millions of different types of training. So, I was challenged. They said, look, Ted, why don't you do a quick search and see what you see? Well, as I did that, I started finding all these different companies, and they all say what? They're all TUV, right? So it's very interesting when you start looking into things. And that's why I say, look, just ask a couple questions. I'm not saying anything's wrong or anything's better than another thing. I'm just saying, make sure you know what you're putting your name next to, because there are differences. And the first things that you want to do when you look at what those differences are is ask yourself, is this a certification or is this a certificate? People say, well, that's the same word. It's not the same word. And it actually means a drastic different thing, because people say you're certified. Certified means this is a certification. And so if you look at the standard ISO 17024, or it might be even an IAC / ISO 17024, that's the standard on personnel competency, right? And so when you look at that, you need to explain the difference between what these two things are. And let's talk about the certificate. A certificate program is where I call it more of an entry level. It can be used for newcomers. It can even be used for experienced professionals. How you dictate the difference is there's one main factor, and that one main factor is what? If there's a training course that is required before you can take an exam, that is a certificate program. What does that mean? That means basically a certificate program is one in which at that moment in time, during that 2, 4, 5 day training, you are now taking an exam based off of that period of time. So as long as you listened in that presentation, as long as you weren't on your phone, text messaging or emailing people, as long as you were paying attention, and then when that exam came up, you understood the material in that course and you passed, kudos to you. That's fantastic. it's a certificate program. I don't care what people call it, what kind of title you get after that. It's essentially saying at that moment in time, for that brief period of history, you were knowledgeable enough to pass an exam based off of training material. Certification is a little bit different. Certification is where training is optional. Usually people will make it, hey, we recommend, right? Because it's always nice to have a refresher course. But in reality, if there is no specific training course that's required to take that exam, it's more likely a certification. Other things and factors are, look at what the criteria is for you to study when you want to get that certification. You know, is it only a training? Do they give you reference material? Is it based off industry standards? Or like I said, off that training course. So there's a lot of things you need to look into, because a true certification is something that's based around industry knowledge plus standards plus reference materials. And reference materials can be training classes as well. But it's not just based off of one thing. And the other part that I'd like to say is, and make sure a certification is also on a global level, right? So no matter where in the world you take this exam, it should be the same structure, not the same exam questions, but the structure and how it's given should all be uniform across the world, right? Because if you had the same exam questions, guess what? Someone could take that exam and just say, hey, Joe, here's the exam I just took, right? So you don't want that. You need that randomization. You need the psychometrics behind the scenes to make sure that every question is a good question. I can go into detail on that, but for this, I just really needed to edify the difference between those types of programs, because once again, it gets a little confusing. And being a visual person, you kind of put things into different representations. So I'll show you the different way, a different visual way that I learned on how to see different tiers, right? And so normally the certificate program is more of your entry level. No, it doesn't have to be just entry people. There are still educated people that take this, because why? Look, you don't have to have a certification for certain roles, or you don't have to earn that if you don't need it in your job, if you don't have that level of desire. I mean, you can still be excellent at what you do. You just don't have to have and go forth and have a certification if it's not required of you, right? So we all have skill sets. We all have things that we must perform in our duties and our roles, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need that certification. It doesn't mean you need to go up that level of competency, right? And so you see certificate programs like ISA, UL, TUV, even exida. We have a certificate program. Guess what? Training is required, you know, but it's good. It's great, and it's the level of competency that you need. And what I'll do is in a minute here, I'll give you some questions that you can now start asking us, meaning all the different agencies out there, companies out there that offer these programs. Start challenging us with questions. I want to give you those questions so you can realize how these programs differ. Okay, so how do you determine what to call a program? You know, what's the importance when you're starting to look into all of these different programs that are out there? Because like I said, they're popping up like candy. They're everywhere. I swear they're everywhere. And it's good. I love it. So, you know, here's some questions, right? Because when you go into this, you know, like I said, you have certificate programs, you got certifications, and it's really kind of, you need to figure out what's right for you. And that's the bottom line. It's what's in it for you, and that's what you want. What do you want to put your name behind? What are you trying to brand against? And so here's some quick questions. I got like 5 or 6 of them. The first one is easy one. What are the experience requirements needed for that program? Okay. And I'm not going to tell you what it should be. I'm just saying, just ask the question and then compare it, right? Next thing is training mandatory, right? Because that'll help you separate certification right away. That's an easy one. Is there a renewal period? Why do I ask that question? If there's no renewal period, that means that agency does not care if you continue your education or if you remain competent. They just care about that moment in time, which is usually like a certificate program. Okay? If they renew, that's usually because they want to see continuing education. They want to see, are you still in the same role? You know, please provide evidence that you still are in this industry so that you can keep that title. Nobody wants someone to be called a professional or an expert if they went from functional safety to, I don't know, cutting hair, right? It's a completely different thing, or maybe they took on their other passion of something else. And so that's why we want to make sure that they're current, they're active, and that it's representative of what you're truly doing in the field. Another thing is ask them if there's any study material. See what their response is, right? You want to learn to see if this organization took the time to give you references on how to, on what the curriculum is, and then what can you use to study to have a better chance on this type of exam. If they say, oh, just take this training course, you know, now you start questioning, okay, what is this all really about? What is that company truly getting at? You know, are they just trying to get me to take their training? Or is this really me trying to become that mentor, that leader, or that professional, if that's the level of knowledge you want to get to? Another question, a great one. Is there an advisory board, right? So who maintains this program? Is it one voice? Is it just that company? Or do we have an advisory board where they have people across the world from different companies that all collectively build this program together? And of course, we went through this one. The other question I had was, you know, if there's a training, how are the trainings impartial to the exam? Good question. Do they know the exam questions, right? So what does that mean? That means if the trainer also gives the exam, that trainer's teaching to that exam. Here in the United States, where I'm from, that's common, right? A lot of teachers literally will teach their students to perform on these exams that the school is rated around. So there's like a rating system in all these different schools. They call them SATs, ACTs, right? All these like these standardized exams. And guess what? Teachers know the curriculum. Teachers know the subjects that are on these exams, and they teach to them. Why? The better their students do, the better grade they get in that school. And guess what? Everyone gets incentives and gets paid more if their school's an A-rated school. That's my opinion. Don't quote me, but that's my opinion. So guess what? If the trainers are giving the exam, you know there's some impartiality issues there. Okay. And you might want to consider that. That's all I'm saying. Not good or bad, just consider it. If you took the exam on one location, is it the same in another location? Great question to ask, right? Or does the exam change based on the instructor, right? So because there's a lot of organizations out there that all give you the same title, but you could take a phenomenal trainer, you could have a mediocre trainer, you could have a trainer that just became a trainer. And all of these different levels of trainers give their own exams or have their own curriculum, but you all get the same title at the end. Interesting. Think about that. If there's a training, what about the training course itself? Right? And I just said that. I kind of led on to my next question. You know, is that training the same in all the different locations around the world, or does it change based on the instructor? Anyway, so there's a lot of questions you could ask. That was just a first handful of questions that you could ask, because why? Those questions really will dictate what program or what path you want to choose, right? Because you're trying to brand yourself. That's what we're all in it for, right? We're all in it to become the best or become the level of competency that we want to achieve. And what we brand ourselves worth or against is really what we want others to see us to be. And so, you know, I believe it's important. And so, you know, and the bottom line, when we talk about these, they're all great programs, right? They're all great if it's what you expect to receive when you're going through something like this. Whether it's functional safety, it's cybersecurity. It could be in robotics, alarm management. I mean, you name it, machine safety. There's so many different programs out there. Just make sure you ask the question so that your end result is what you expect to receive, and that you are going to be judged upon by others with the same title exactly what you expected that judgment to be, right? So anyways, so where do you fit in? It's up to you. It depends on if you want to start with a certificate program, if you want to go straight into certification. You know, think about it yourself. What's your level of knowledge? How long have you been in the field? When was the last time you really dove into these different types of standards for that industry? And if you feel confident, yeah, go straight to the certification. A certificate program is never a prerequisite. There is no prerequisites other than like having a certain level of years of experience, and having, I think our program, we require, depending on whatever what program you're choosing, either 2 or 4 recommendations. We call them referee statements, right? So there are some things that pre-qualify you, but you never have to take a different training or take a different course to be able to take it. Even if you're a CFSP, you don't have to be a CFSP to be a CFSE. You can go straight to the top. Why? Because this exam is based off of your knowledge, and it's not based off of trying to tear you through and make you take all these different courses to become something. I've even heard of a program where they say you must pass this training with this exam, this training with this exam, this training with this exam, and if you pass 4 of them, hey, we're going to tell everybody that you're now an expert because you took 4 courses with us, passed 4 exams with us, and then I'll give you an expert title. It's interesting, but are you truly an expert? I don't know. What are the advantages? I kind of touched on this a little bit, but the advantages of becoming in the certificate program are great, right? It does provide that proof of competency because you took that training and you can pass that exam, and it shows that you understood the knowledge. It's fantastic for when, let's just say, your upper management says, for me, hey Ted, I need you to learn about functional safety. Please come back and report back to me that you've achieved this. Show me something. And so you go I go and take this 3 or 4 day training course. At the end, I pass the exam. I can now have something in my hand that says I'm now competent. I've provided that I retain the knowledge, and yes, upper management, your money was worth it because now I have this certificate. I can now continue on with my job, right? So there's a lot of things like that. It does increase your value as an employee. It does differentiate yourself because while you can now add to your signature that in this situation in front of you that you're a functional safety practitioner, right? Which is fantastic. And then of course, it always helps you in preparation on if you want to take that next level, where if you want to increase your knowledge, if you want to increase your competency or provide that evidence when you want to become that certified functional safety expert professional or that cybersecurity expert as well, what have you. So that's what's great. Certification, I know we talked about it. Once again, it's a whole nother level. You once again get to change your credentials and your signature. You get to put them all over, advertise. You should advertise. You should tell people if you are a master in a certain area. People need to know that. People need to come to you, and you need, and then that way they have someone to go to get help, right? I mean, yeah, there's all these different groups on LinkedIn where we're all helping each other, but in reality, you adding that accolade or those letters next to your name lets people know, hey, I can go to, John Doe because he's a CFSE and I know what that means. I know that he can help me with my risk reduction factor. I know it can help me with what HFT means, or, hey, do I really even need SIL in this application? Or in cybersecurity, he can help you with the zones and conduits. He can tell you about patch management. He or she can really walk you through a threat modeling, right? So there's all these different things that just by those initials says so much about a person. What we all need to do now is make sure that the initials we put really reflect who we are. And that I think is so key into this because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Yes, there's resources, there's many study guides, there's reference books. I think everybody's coming out with online trainings now. There's good and bad in what happened with this virus in the world that we're in, but however, it's really tested those companies that had training programs, because guess what? We are now all stronger on these online platforms. I know us, meaning Exida, we're light years ahead of our online platform. It's incredible how much we've done to help people and to adapt. It's been amazing. It's been such a rewarding thing. And the other thing that I want to conclude with here is, now that you know what I've kind of told you, and yes, I know you can hear my voice, I'm passionate. I care for so many people out there, and I want your journey through personal competency to be the one you expected to see and to have. And I want our programs, I want everyone that's going to come up with a new program, I want everyone to, I say, stay in your lane. Let's keep consistency. Let's have transparency. if we're going to call someone a professional, if we're going to call somebody an expert, if we're going to call someone a practitioner, if we're going to call someone a name, let's put worth behind it. Let's make sure we're all singing the same song. And if someone's not, let's make sure we all know what that means. There's a lot of people out there right now with a certain name, with a certain initial after their name, that they thought they already were an expert. They thought they were a professional. They thought they did the best that they could do, only to realize it was just another certificate program that was glorified. And it's been so much that we're having people flood to us telling us, look, I have a title that, and this is another reason for this webinar, I have a title that I thought it was something else. What can I do about it? And literally, our certification team has put, okay, I'll call it an unofficial, but there is we've developed this campaign behind the scenes where people that come to us that say, hey, I thought I had a certification, we're now helping them with a transition process, bridging that gap to get them to where they want to be. Besides the fact that we have people just really asking questions and trying to get clarity, they'll come to us with 6 or 7 different companies to say, what do I do? All we do is point them to the different websites, right, of where the information's handled, and we let them make their decisions. If they ask for advice, we can give it to them. However, I think it's best to just let them do their own research to become who they want to become. Like I said, all the programs out there, they're great. Just make sure you're getting what you want out of it. And that's kind of the bottom line. And with the rise in these programs, isn't it great to have the ability to ask questions to realize what you're getting yourself into? Or your colleague, if you're already ahead of him or her, let them know what goes on so that they can then make their decision, because we're all different. We all have it for different reasons. We're all trying to get different jobs. And if you want to be an expert and you want a title that's an expert and it's going to mean something when you get that job on that resume, pick one that, you know, is going to hold weight. Yes, like I said, everyone has online training. We have online training. We have a lot of live streaming with a live instructor. Personally, the corporate office that I'm working with right now, we're in a yellow state. We're still in that phase 2. We're still slowly trickling people into our office. We're still all working remotely. So online is what we need to do to continue on. And so we have instructors that are live. We have live training facilities that they'll teach in front of green screens or what have you, or it'll just be through a webinar like this. But we have live streamings that you can attend. If you'd rather just recordings, we have many self-paced trainings now that you can do from the comfort of your own home at any time, during work hours, after work hours. So it's really refreshing. It's really nice to be able to have these types of things available to you. Okay, I'm going to get into some questions. I want to just thank everyone. I hope you found this valuable. I'll jump into the questions. If you want to follow me, if you want to pick my brain, if you didn't agree with things I said today, I love it. Challenge. Let's talk. Let's have those great conversations. I want to learn. I want you to learn. We're in this together, right? This is a niche market, but we're big enough to where we can all have a voice, and that's what we want. We want to grow. We want to get better. We want to move on to the next level of cybersecurity, the next level of safety. And I think having conversations like this is what's going to really help us get there. So follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You know, so what if you get an extra email every day or once a month because you joined something, or you get an extra post? Oh, they're telling me more about new functional safety stuff. Is it really that bad? Anyways, let's get into some questions. I put my email there in front of me if you needed my contact information, and let's start saying. All right, let's pop out these questions. All right, the first question I have is, okay, they didn't tell me what they currently, they basically said, they put X. They said, hey, I have X title. If I wanted a different title, where can I find the information? That's kind of an open-ended question. Essentially, if you want, send me a quick email. I will go ahead and list the ones that you're considering, or whatever title you have, and I can just give you probably emails or links to those websites so that you can see what it truly means. And then, and you wanted the questions as well. Yeah, I can also give you, I'll do a Q&A after my second session of this today, and I'll give everybody that was on this webinar the PDF of all the questions that were asked, and even the questions that I said how to determine what program you want. I'll put that in this PDF as well, so you have a list of those questions. So in case you're writing them down, I'll put them in there, so then you get a copy of every question with every answer and all the slides for today's presentation. I got a question here. What is Exida's or your suggested route to becoming a CACE? What courses would you recommend to head towards this certification? So for people that don't know, CACE is a Certified Automation Cybersecurity Expert. So this is our top tier of someone that's within cybersecurity. So what courses would you recommend? Peter, for you, it depends on what your expertise is. So when I talked about the different types of certifications, I know for certifications like CACE, you can choose if you want to, there's different specialties, I should say. So there's an automation cybersecurity exam, there's an integrator or integration cybersecurity exam, and then there's a software development cybersecurity. So Peter, I just forgot what company you work for. Essentially, let me know a little bit about your title, who you work for, and what I can do is I can guide you, or at least send you descriptions on each one of those specialties. And then depending on which one you choose, I would recommend a different level of resources or trainings if you want a training on how to better prepare yourself for that exam. So I hope that helped. I just don't know what specialty you would take. Okay, any other questions? Automation, nice. Peter, what I'll do is I most likely have your contact information. I'll go ahead and send you an email on what I would recommend for the automation exam for cybersecurity. Absolutely. Oh, you send me an email. Thanks, appreciate that. The questions were light today. I only had 2 questions. Anything else? Come on, I was expecting someone to challenge me. No, but okay, I'll conclude then. Thank you, like I said, for joining me today. I hope you found it valuable. If you have any questions, anything you didn't think of, send me an email, find me on LinkedIn, whatever you want to do, I'll get them answered for you. Thank you, and I hope you can spread this word, and kind of when other people are asking, what are these differences, you're able to at least help shed some light as well. I wish you a good day. Have a great week. Thanks again. Stay safe, everybody. Take care for now. Bye-bye.